Let me ask you something before we even start today. When someone asks you how you're doing, what's the first word that comes out of your mouth? For most of the people I work with, it's fine. I am fine. And I want to explore what's underneath that word today. Hello and welcome back to Laugh Without Losing Yourself. I'm Penelope, and today I want us to talk about something I've been sitting with for a while. Something I notice consistently, almost without exception, in the first few minutes of working with a high achiever. And I think once you hear it, you will recognize it in yourself and probably in people around you. Throughout the years of doing this work, I noticed something interesting about how high achievers open a conversation. They lead with the story they've decided is the problem. I'm overwhelmed. My team isn't delivering. I know what I need to do. I just can't make myself do it. And I always listen carefully because what they are saying is true. That's generally what's happening on the surface. But I also listening for something else, for what's underneath the words. But before we move on, I want to clarify something. Because when I say high achiever, I want to make sure we are talking about the same thing. I'm not talking about job titles. I am not talking about income levels or external success markers. I am talking about a way of operating, a specific relationship with pressure, performance, and self-sufficiency that some people develop, and usually they develop it early. Usually for a very good reasons, and it follows them into every room they ever walk into. You may be a CEO, or you may be a teacher, you may run a company, or you may run a household. The title doesn't matter. What matters is the pattern underneath. So let me tell you what I actually see when that person sits down with me. I see someone who the same morning probably handled 3 other people's problems before they even got to their own desk, who answered emails during what was supposed to be lunch, who said, I am fine at least 4 times to their team, to their partner, to themselves, and who genuinely believes that this is just what life looks like at this level. The common denominator in this behavior is not how much they are caring, it's how normal the weight feels to them. They've been carrying it for so long that they've stopped noticing it's there. And this load is not loud anymore. It's just the baseline. And that's exactly what makes it so hard to see and so expensive to keep ignoring. That's what I see in the first 5 minutes. Someone who has confused their capacity to carry with the reason to keep caring. Throughout the years, I've also noticed that underneath the different stories, there are 3 root patterns that show up again and again in high achievers. I want to walk you through each one. And before I do, I also want to say something very important. If you recognize yourself in what I am about to describe, don't think badly of yourself. Don't blame yourself. And I know that for many, the first reaction is to take the blame. But please don't. Understand instead that what's driving this behavior is that you've learned to operate from a pattern. And as I already said many times before, patterns can change. The first pattern is the proof loop. This is the most common one I see in leaders and executives. And it shows and looks like this. You achieve something, it might be a target, a milestone, a level you've been working toward. There is a brief moment of satisfaction, and then what happens? The goalposts move. What others witness or think when they see you is that you are an ambitious person. And in some ways it is. But from the inside, what you feel inside, it's like a treadmill. You can't figure out how to stop. And the reason the satisfaction never quite arrives is because the achievement isn't actually meeting the underlying need. Because the underlying need is proof that you are enough, proof that you belong, proof that all of this, the work, the sacrifice, the relentless output is justified. External achievement can never provide that proof because the proof loop doesn't come down on how good you are at your job. It's an identity one. The second pattern, the invisible load. This one shows up a lot in people who carry responsibility for others. Leaders, founders, professionals who other people rely on, parents. Here's what it looks like. You are carrying significantly more than your job description says you should do or you should be. And it's not just tasks. I'm talking also about weight, about other people's anxiety, the team's morale, the client's confidence, your kids' successes. You carry this burden automatically. You are carrying it competently, so automatically that nobody around you even realizes what you're doing, not even you, until one day you stop. And in the moment of stopping, the exhaustion you suddenly feel isn't tiredness. It might seem like it is, but in reality, it's the weight of everything you've been holding up to this point becoming visible all at once. This invisible load doesn't lift with a better schedule or a holiday, though both might help in the short term. It lives when you can finally see what you've been doing all this time was never yours to carry in the first place. Pattern 3, the frozen decider. And this one surprises people when I name it, because it shows up in people who are exceptional decision makers in professional contexts. They make fast, high-stakes decisions at work without hesitation, and then they come home and spend weeks, sometimes months, unable to decide something personal, a relationship direction, a conversation they keep postponing, a choice that touches who they are rather than what they do. And the reason for the paralysis is this. In professional contexts, there is a framework, data, a clear definition of success. In personal decisions, there is no framework. So the analytical mind, which is genuinely brilliant, turns on itself. Every decision gets stress tested. Every outcome gets modeled. And the result is a loop. A very intelligent mind working against itself using the wrong tool for the job. 3 patterns, the proof loop, the invisible load, the frozen decider. Most people I work with have elements of all three, with one that's clearly dominant. And here what I want you to understand. None of these are character flaws. They are intelligent adaptations to real pressures that have outlived their usefulness and are now running on autopilot. The work we do isn't to fix you. The actual work, is to see the pattern clearly enough that you get to choose whether to keep running it. I want to share 3 stories with you. These are real people I've worked with. I've changed the names and some details, but the patterns are exactly as they happened. The first is someone I will call Catherine. Catherine is the founder of a growing company. Exceptional, sharp, decisive, respected by her team. When she came to me, she said she felt like she was running on empty but couldn't afford to stop. She thought she needed a better system to handle things, a cleaner schedule. What we found was the proof loop, running so deep she had never seen it. Her entire way of operating had been built around proving her right to be in the room. Every decision, every interaction filtered through that one question: am I enough to be here? Along the way, she realized this: I've been working for approval for people who aren't even in the room anymore. That was the reset. One sentence of clarity that changed how she showed up from that point forward. The second is someone I will call Alex, senior leader, brilliant at execution. Contacted me saying, I know what I need to do. I just can't make myself do it. Alex was the frozen decider. The decision needed here wasn't professional, it was personal. And the analytical mind had been working on it hard for months. What we did wasn't try to make the decision. We looked at what the inability to decide was protecting, because that's always what the loop is doing. It's protecting something. For Alex, it was protecting against the possibility of being wrong, of making a choice that couldn't be undone. And once we named that, the loop broke. The fear didn't disappear. But now they were making a decision with the real variables on the table, not the ones anxiety had invented. The third is someone I will call Maria. Academic, mother, high accomplished, came to me saying she felt disconnected, like I am watching my life from the outside. This is the invisible load running at full capacity. She had been so focused on delivery, on maintaining her standard, that she had slowly lost contact with herself, her own preferences, her own needs. She believed she needed to find a way to become more productive or a way to reduce her workload. In reality, what she needed was permission to exist beyond her function. And it might sound simple, but it wasn't. For someone who had built their identity entirely around what they produce, being allowed to simply be without producing anything is one of the most disorienting and quietly liberating things that can happen. 3 people, 3 industries, 3 completely different surface problems. But they have one thing in common. They all came in thinking the problem was their circumstance. They left understanding that the pattern was the thing and that the pattern could change. So, why am I telling you all of this today? Because I want to offer you something that most high achievers have never been offered. The possibility that what's happening isn't what you think is happening. That the thing you've been trying to solve with more discipline, more planning, more pushing through might not be the actual problem. That the reason the usual fixes aren't sticking isn't because you are not trying hard enough. This week, I am opening 5 free 20-minute clarity calls. Here's what that looks like. You tell me what's actually going on. The real version, not the fine version. I listen. I reflect back what I hear. I name the pattern underneath. You leave with at least one thing clearer than when you arrived. If a reset session makes sense after that conversation, I will tell you. If it doesn't, I will tell you that too. The link is going to be in the show notes. 5 spots this week only. And if you're sitting there thinking, this sounds useful, but I probably don't need it, I want to gently point something out. That thought is also a pattern. The pattern of someone who is very good at seeing what other people need and very slow to acknowledge what they need themselves. You don't need to be in crisis to deserve clarity. Thank you for being here today with me. I will see you next week.